Hillary Clinton appears to be building a comfortable lead over rival Donald Trump. Here's a look at some of the just released polls today. You heard Carl mention these. These were taken after the most recent debate. An ABC News Washington Post poll shows Hillary Clinton with an 11-point lead over Trump in a four-way matchup with Johnson and Stein, picking up 7% and 2%. And an NBC Wall Street Journal poll shows a tighter gap, Trump trailing by 4 points behind Clinton, with Johnson and Stein at 5% and 2% respectively. Another obstacle for the Republican nominee are the large fractures within the GOP. Many congressional leaders now denouncing Trump. Win or lose, there are going to be some soul-searching moments for the GOP when this whole election is over. Let's get some insight on what the future of the GOP may look like from Dr. Lara Brown. She is an associate professor of George Washington University and joins us live. Good to see you, Doctor.
It's great to be here. Thanks.
Okay, so there's an interesting thing here because a lot of people have been brought into the voting process by Donald Trump. People who've never been in primaries before, maybe never voted in the general before. They've come on board. How, if there is a defeat here, does the GOP hold on to the good things that have happened, the new people that have been brought in for them?
Well, I think it's going to be tough. I mean, really what you're looking at is what kind of loss is Donald Trump taking? And that will be really the basis upon which any kind of credible claim or rebuilding can happen. So if Donald Trump sort of loses badly, meaning that he posts lower than 40% nationally in the aggregate votes, then I think what you're looking at is Washington and the establishment Republicans will be able to essentially say, I told you so. We need to have gone a different way. In fact, the 2013 Growth and Opportunity Report really suggested we should go a different way. Donald Trump was not a good experiment. On the other hand, if he ends up, with like 44, 45%, and Hillary Clinton ends up with 47 or 48, you see a very different conversation taking place, and that's where there is this problem. You will have essentially a civil war between the two factions trying to claim dominance in the party.
Well, can they come back and forth, back together like the North and South did after the Civil War here in the U.S.? I mean, is it possible for these two different factions who at times have been just vociferously attacking each other to come together and say, we do have some common good and common ideals, things that we agree on, that we can now join forces and go after the other side?
Well, and you're right that they do have common things that they can agree upon. In fact, if you look at Speaker Paul Ryan's sort of announcement about their legislative priorities, there is vast support in the House of Representatives to move forward on conservative policies. But whether or not, I think a lot of these people are going to come over and support that House agenda is going to be about whether Donald Trump loses graciously or not. You heard Vice Presidential nominee Mike Pence say that peaceful transition of power is incredibly important, and that, of course, they'll accept whatever result comes in. And that will be the cue to those supporters about what they should do.
But all this chatter about the election being rigged, we've been hearing that for months. Yeah. And it takes different formats. And if you're arguing it's rigged in the fact that the media doesn't give Donald Trump a fair shake, or they're too easy on Hillary Clinton for scandals that she has versus scandals he has, that connotation of rigged is different than suggesting your votes are not actually being counted at the ballot box.
Well, I think that's right. And so what is really going to happen at the end of the day is how are the media reporting the election results on election night? How sort of burned or accepting do those Trump supporters feel should Donald Trump actually lose? And I think so much of that is going to be the cues that come from the top.
Yeah, okay. I want to quickly mention three up-and-comers in the GOP you say to watch. Mia Love, Congresswoman out of Utah, Tim Scott, a senator, and South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley. They're all very different.
Yes.
They all are minority backgrounds. They're different than the traditional years ago GOP face that a lot of folks would think they'd see. How important is it to develop them and bring them up through the party? And what kind of star power do you think they can add?
Well, I think it's tremendously important. In fact, if you look at the individuals who were voted both into office in 2010 and 2014, there are incredible stars kind of all across the party, but many of them were not behind Donald Trump. And this is where there is this question of if they can essentially take the spotlight back, if they can redirect the Republican Party after this election, I think the Republican Party really has a tremendous tremendous future because they are focused on fiscal issues, and Generation X does tend to be a more conservative generation that is more concerned about fiscal issues. So if they can move the conversation from these sort of social issues and racial issues and gender issues, I think they actually can put the Republican Party on a very strong footing going forward.
Yeah, and some of them have their own races to worry about in the meantime. Dr. Lara Brown, great to see you.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for coming in.